Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's Integrity Leadership Call. Glad to have everyone on this evening. If you are in the position to, please turn on your camera so that we can see your lovely, shining, smiling faces. Also, if at any point in time you have any questions or thoughts, if your camera is on, simply wave your hand. We will acknowledge you that way. If your camera is not on, not to worry. You can click on participants. From there, you will see a small blue hand that says raise hand. Click on that, and we will acknowledge you that way. And you are always welcome to type your questions and thoughts in the chat. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you to our trainers. I'm gonna call them master trainers, even though they're still learning too. We're all learning together, but they're master trainers nonetheless. This young lady is the COO of the ATSJR companies and the CEO of DeMarie, as well as this gentleman, our big brother, hails from G-Town, Galveston, Texas. He has a book coming out, y'all. You know, don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on the author now, okay? Don't judge a book by its cover, okay? Come see about me, KSBM. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Miss Deanna Mitchell and Mr. Reginald Paul.
All right. Thank you, Miss Grace Sandals. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Before we start,
Go ahead.
I just want to tell the Holy Spirit that's listening. I've been wanting to tell them this ever since last night. Clutch City, baby. Clutch City. That's all I want to tell the Holy Spirit. That's it. And I hope everybody else is out there feeling fine and looking beautiful as you are. But again, I just got to tell all my people out there, Clutch City. And if you don't know what that is, I am a Houston Rockets fan ever since I was birthed into this world. And that's it. That is it. That's right. Go Rockets. That's it. We can start now, Ms. Mitchell. I had to throw that out there because I know the Holy Spirit is everywhere.
The Holy Spirit typed in refs. The Holy Spirit typed in refs.
Yeah. I see him. He need to be typing in the Pacers. That's what he need to be typing in. Help. That's what they need. Anyway.
I actually saw a real game between the Bucks and the Heat. That was a good game.
Yeah.
It was a good game. That was a good game. All right. So we are doing chapters 11, 12, 10, 11, 12, or 11, 12, 13. 10, 11, 12. Thank you, Grace. Thank you. There's so many numbers in my head right now. So much going on. So chapters, the last three chapters of the book, 10, 11, and 12. So I just want to, if there was something that you picked up in these last three chapters, 10, 11, and 12. I don't know how much you picked up in chapter 10, but chapter 10 was very short. So, Reverend Reginald, I'm going to go ahead and let you get started. What did you get out of the last three chapters that you would like to address with our audience today?
Can I, you know what? Like the book said, it says, let's back up. So I want to back up.
Let's back up.
It's something that caught my attention on page 152. 152. This is before we got to 10. This is before we got to 10. Okay. 152. It say, let's back up. There's nothing wrong with anything. Wrong is a relative term indicating the opposite of which you call right. Yet, what is right? Can you be truly objective in these matters? Or are right and wrong simply descriptions overlaid on events and circumstances by you out of your decision about them? And what, pray tell, forms the basis of your decision? Your own experience? No. In most cases, you've chosen to accept someone else's decision. Someone who came before you and presumably knows better. Very few of your daily decisions about what is right and wrong are being made by you based on your understandings. This is especially true on important matters. In fact, the more important the matter, the less likely are you to listen to your own experience and the more ready you seem to be to make someone else's ideas your own. That is very interesting. And you see that I emphasize you a lot because, one of the things I was thinking about as I read it about 3 times, by the way. Like without child, even there, I read it 3 times because this is like, it could be a slap in the face, but it just makes so much. I like sense. And anybody in here like sense? Like anybody in here like true sense? Like tell me the truth. That's the only thing I said. Don't lie to me, man. Don't tell me no Santa Claus. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me about nothing. Just tell me the real truth. You understand what I'm saying? And here it is. You say there's nothing wrong with anything. Wrong is a relative term indicating the opposite of that which you call right. I want somebody to explain that to me. I want somebody to explain that in their own words. I'll read it again because I want to get a clear understanding of it. Say, there's nothing wrong with anything. Wrong is a relative term indicating the opposite of that which you call right. Yet, what is right, can you be truly objective in these matters, or are right and wrong simply descriptions overlaid on events and circumstances by you out of decision about them? Could somebody explain that to me?
All right. Oh, go ahead, Miss Grace.
Oh,
And after Grace, Miss Carol.
okay, I was going to say I was going to let Miss Carol go first. I'm gonna be rambling because I got thoughts, but they're not forming complete sentences yet. Go ahead, Miss Carol.
So as we build our belief systems and our understanding of how the world is for us, everybody sees it a little bit differently. So when we conclude something, when we think there's a right or a wrong, it goes by what our belief system is and our values. Doesn't mean that somebody else's is the same. So what could be right or wrong for me may not be right or wrong for you. So I am perceiving what is right, making whatever is the opposite of it wrong because of my perception of the situation. That's what that.
I like how you worded that. Now you know me. This is how I'm thinking. So, who gives the people the right to sit in a room somewhere and make a rule or a law to tell me that I am wrong? No, not to tell me that I am wrong. That what I am doing is wrong. What gave them the right? What gave them the justice? What gave them the even reason to even make that up? Was it for the protection of the people, or was it protection of themselves? Or did they see nothing but dollar signs in their mind? This is what I want to know. I want to know the truth. See, you could sit a bunch of people in a room and they could just come up with, you know what? This is it. You know what? Reginald can't sell raisins in September in Winston-Salem, and that's a law, and I can't do it. Why can they make that up and I can't make my own up and then declare that as a law, and then somebody can break that? Why is that? Help me, please, somebody, Lord. I got to be. I know what it is. I got to go somewhere where somebody can vote for me or something. That's what it is. I can't just go make up a law. That's what they doing. They just making it up as they go. Impeding the sidewalk and impeding the traffic. Where I'm gonna walk at, sir? I just wanted to vent. That's all. I'm just venting. I just wanted to get that out because that's what it seemed like to me.
You know the answer to that.
Just walk where they tell me to walk.
No.
No.
We're talking about when people get together and they're vibrating at a certain level and they have the authority because of the stature of where
that's the word.
They get to make decisions. So the only way you're going to be able to make decisions if you become as powerful in your stance wherever it is, whatever level you want to move to, so that you don't have to either engage in that or you can make your own laws because you have your own situation going on.
Don't give me no ideas, Miss Carol. Don't you give me no ideas now. It's still daylight outside. Anybody else? Grace, did you get the thoughts together?
I think I did.
Clean? Okay.
When I heard Miss Carol, I was like, she is on it. She is on it because what I think is right, you may think is wrong, and vice versa. What you think is wrong, I may think is right, or what you think is right, I may think is wrong. And so it is based on your perception. So just like, okay, case in point, Antonio was always talking about the traffic light at 3 a.m. If it's a red light, he gonna run through it. If Adonia is in the car with him, she'll go spastic because he says, man, it's no traffic, but she's like, man, but that's a red light. So you see, it's two different circumstances. It's two different perceptions of a circumstance. So Adonia, wait a minute, look up, Adonia, do it again, Reggie, do it again, Reggie. He's talking about y'all. You know when the mom is in the car.
Is that your hand seatbelt? That's his hand
That's it.
seatbelt.
That's it. When the mom is in the car and she got to do a stop real quick, maybe. That's it. Y'all got to check out this podcast when it comes.
Oh,
Anyway,
man.
those are my thoughts.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
Reverend Reginald, for those who are just joining us, can you reread that section so they can know exactly what we're asking them to comment on? Thank you all so much for joining us. We're so happy to have all of you.
It's not a necessarily comment. I just want to see what people's minds at today. You know what I'm saying? What they thinking about. What's on their mental. You know what I'm saying? And like I said,
sir.
when I read it, that I kind of when Miss Carol spoke, Miss Carol brought the the leader out of me. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be authoritative. I want to sit in the room and I want to make the law and I want to put my foot down on it. So let me read it again. Let's back up. There's nothing wrong with anything. Wrong is a relative term indicating the opposite of that which you call right. Yet, what is right? Can you be truly objective in these matters? Or are right and wrong simply descriptions overlaid on events and circumstances by you out of your decision about them? And what, pray tell, forms the basis of your decision? Your own experience? No. In most cases, you've chosen to accept someone else's decision, someone who came before you and presumably knows better. Very few of your daily decisions about what is right and wrong are being made by you based on your own understanding. So basically, somebody told you and you just ran with it. They told you anything. They told you anything under the sun. And by you just not exploring and using your own antennas and figuring it out for yourself, you just believe what they told you. There is a Santa Claus and he comes in through the chimney and gives you gifts and eat all your cookies. They told me that. Until I looked under the chimney and figured out that man was not coming. We ain't even have a chimney. Anyway, let me stop. We ain't even have a chimney. How you gonna come down here? You tell me that folklore. That's what I'm just saying. No, telling folklores. That's the word, Miss Miss. That's the word, folklore. How many of us been told folklores before?
I believe every last one of us.
And we took it all the way till we was grown, and then when you find out that it was not the truth, how did you feel about it? That's what we're talking about today, right there, in just that little part. We started off. I backtracked. I went to 9. We started with 10, but that one it just caught my attention. That's all.
So Reggie, what was it? My understanding that you said that you believed in this guy that came down the chimney and gave gifts and all that stuff, and then you said something about
because my mama told me that.
And then you said something about you believed it all the way until you were grown.
Well, no, I didn't believe that all the way till I was grown. I had to figure out. First of all, I figured out that we ain't had no chimney. as a child, I had to figure it out as curious as I was. The first Christmas they got away with it. Okay, I'm gonna just be honest. First Christmas they got away with it. Second Christmas, I figured out what a chimney was due to the first grade, and then they couldn't tell me that no more. Yeah, they got over me in kindergarten.
Yeah, I figured that out when I saw the box covered with a blanket. I'm like, how Santa Claus gonna cover a gift with my blanket? But I'm gonna let him make it.
He made the blanket.
Oh man. So there's something that you read that Antonio always says. He says it to me and Grace quite often, but more so to me. Oh man, I lost my page. There it is. I actually lost my page. Oh my goodness. It was 152, right? Yeah, there it is. That he tells us all the time, there is no right, there is no wrong. And when I read this part and then you reread it, I was like, huh, that makes, because it says, like you said, let's back up. There's nothing wrong with anything. Wrong is a relative term indicating the opposite of that which you call right. Yet what is right? Can you be truly objective in these matters, or are right and wrong simply descriptions overlaid on events and circumstances by you out of your decision about them? So it's like, what's right and what's wrong? Just because it's not what you want does not make it wrong. Just because it's what you say it is does not make it right. So how do you go, and I'm asking everyone this, how do you go from, Antonio always tell me you want to be right, and when you're always right, you always make someone else wrong. How do you go from wanting to be right and just be? How do you do both ends? How do you go ahead, Miss Shamanda?
You know, it's one of those things, like Antonio was saying this morning, or earlier this afternoon, about how he gets to know all the different people from, be it a Muslim, be it a Jewish person, what have you. It takes a person coming out of their comfort zone and being able to travel is very important, because you get to see and break down the stereotypes that the television has given the majority of us, including our parents, those that have taught us, teachers or what have you. So we're locked in a world that we've been, positioned in, by chance, right? But the more you're able to get out and meet new people, learn what they're about, you can learn to love people. How you say, you agree to disagree, but it doesn't mean that your disagreement means that you're wrong or that you're right, or vice versa. So for me, in my travels, I think that has made the biggest difference in my life, is because I traveled, in 1 year in over about 12 countries, right? And I lived in host families. We never stayed in hotels. It was always in a home. So I got to actually see the life of people and see how they love one another. And though it was different from my world most of the time, they still had the same vibration of joy and happiness and sadness or what have you with things that were taking place in their life. So when I came back to the States, I was set apart. I didn't see through the same lens, though I had, grown up in this, very religious world. I couldn't not accept a person for being different from myself. You understand? So I think that the important thing is actually, like Antonio was stating earlier, get to know people that are not like yourself in order to broaden your horizon, broaden your viewpoint, learn what else is going on out there in this world. When you all were talking, I didn't know exactly what the topic was because I came in a little bit late, but I was thinking about when I was over in Europe, there were parents that would actually leave their newborn baby in the train station with bottles and diapers or what have you, and they would go on and go to work. People would stop and feed the child. And that to me was like, oh my goodness, over here we think about kidnappings and all this, that, and the other taking place, and how can somebody leave their child? But that's their culture. If someone had taken the child to take care of that child, it would have been okay with that parent. What they do, they go do what they need to do, and they come back in the evening time, pick that child up, and start the next day, as it's nothing, bring the child right back with bottles and food and diapers, leave it there, and go about their day and come back to see if the child is gone. Now, to you and me here in this Western society, that's crazy. But I remember coming back here and hearing how, parents would sit the kids out, and they also sit their children out in the sunlight to get sun, for so many hours of the day, and go about what they're doing inside the house, okay? I remember coming back and hearing how some people, from different places had been arrested for this, that, and that. And I'm like, we don't understand their culture. I saw this when I was over there. And here we say it's wrong, but here it is, they're getting in trouble for something that is right in their world. And no one sees that there's, a difference. Another thing is we keep our children way longer than I think we're supposed to. You mature into womanhood, manhood, 13, 14 years old, sometimes even 12. And in some countries, you can get married at those ages because you flowered out. You're actually an adult. Where in Western society, we say, 18, 19, 20, that's 18 pretty much is when you are considered an adult. But, there are things in being able to travel. I'm going to cut this off because I'll talk too long. This one kind of hit a nerve today from earlier on, and it's just carrying on into your conversation tonight. But at the end of the day, to break things down, it is actually getting to know people outside of what you know, and being open-minded and just wanting to learn, because everyone literally, we're all doing the best we know how, and we only, are seeing through the scope that, we've landed. But our landing is very, very small. It's very, it's not broad at all. So in order to not get stuck in that place of judgment, you've got to broaden your horizons, travel. I tell anyone, travel, take the time to travel. I was blessed to be able to have that opportunity. And even through my hurts and pains or what have you, brought on by myself or brought on by others, because of that travel, I've been able to stand up with my head held high to know that, whatever caused the person to do what they did, or whatever caused me to do what I did, it was because it was what I knew. But there's so much more to be learned, so much more to know. And with that type of a mindset, you're able to, keep it moving and not hold grudges or not hold envies or pains and all of that stuff within you, because you realize that, everybody is trying to, come to a place of understanding through whatever it is that they've been through or whatever they've been taught. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Amanda. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I definitely do agree with you on traveling. I was after this morning's training, I told Antonio, I was like, because he always says he's everything for everyone, or he's all things for all people, because he learned the cultures of all. So Antonio's never looking to be right at all, and that's a characteristic and a character trait of his that really, when I watch him do that, I'm sitting here like, dude, they're so wrong. And he's like, but what good does it do? What good does it do to me to point that out to them? Because I promise y'all, I'll be sitting here, someone to do something, I'm looking at him like, man, let's go in. And he like, no. He always asks me and Grace, you want to be right or you want to be rich? He's like, man, we want to be rich.
That's good. That's good.
Want to be right or you want to be rich? We're like, man, we want to be rich. Fine. There's a situation that actually happened with one of our team members, and he was like, well, this is how you handle it. You do twice as much and say this. And me and this team member, I was with him on this. I'm like, I'm gonna do what? Man, look, hold on. but Antonio's, he's not about being right. He's about being rich. And the greatest way to be rich is to treat someone 2 times better than they treat you. And in order to do that, you can't be right. You can't.
Now,
be
let
right.
me, you know what? Let me add to that. I'm gonna tell you something. Something that I learned with how they teach gifted kids versus what they consider to be just, you know, the normal. I mean, I feel everybody's gifted, but when you place that label and you're afforded the opportunity to go into that cycle, they actually teach the gifted kids more so in that open-ended type of an environment where they get to experiment and you don't hear wrong, right. It's, well, why did you do this? You know, how did you come about this? But on the other hand, in the normal, I say mainstream of education, there are a lot of restrictions. So what Antonio has mastered is more so that way of gifted teaching. So he's bringing up a whole different mindset with leaders, you know, because that's what he's training. We're leaders. He is producing and cultivating leaders in this ATS industry, this university, right? And it's all about how you project it out. And as you're speaking, and one of the things that's coming to me is that his mindset is more centered around how teachers and professors treat those that they consider gifted versus mainstream students, which my thing is I have a problem with that, okay, but it's what's set up. And we have to move past that and keep things open-ended to where people can explain why did they do it. So you're giving them a chance to actually build upon what's within them versus telling them, you know, that this is the way it's supposed to be. They don't do that in the gifted classes.
Wow.
Just food for thought, you know, something to throw out there, but that, yeah, it's major. This is I say groundbreaking stuff.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, Mr. Amanda, and thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for adding value as well. I see, Miss Kiera, you have your mic unmuted. The floor is yours.
That was an accident. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries at all. If ladies and gentlemen, if you were on our earlier training, our esoteric training at 11 a.m. Central, Antonio and Kiera tore it up. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So Dr. Trask and Miss Arcia, yes, ma'am, and then Dr. Trask. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to add on to that young lady when she was talking about the different teaching styles.
Mm-hmm.
So the different teaching style, what I took from that, when someone is telling you, and you're not explaining yourself, that's a baking experience. And what I mean by that means they just feeding you the information, but you're not able to be hands-on. Now, the other experience is collaboration thinking or collaboration experience, meaning you're hands-on, you're able to give feedback. That's kind of experience you get when you're in college sometimes, because you're able to give feedback to your professor or your teacher. So I learned about that when I went to school for my human service degree. And it was like it opened my mind up, because when I was when I was back in high school, we didn't get a chance to express ourselves. We had to learn that stuff. And some of the stuff that we learned, we had to unlearn it when we got to college, because some of that stuff wasn't true.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
Thank you very much. Dr. Trask, and then after Dr. Trask, Corey Peters.
I'm just wanting to know what page are you on in the book?
We are on page, oh, my tail done moved in. Page 152 at the
Is
very
that the
top.
book, Integrity? Which
No,
book?
ma'am. Conversations with God, book 1.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. All right, Mr. Corey Peters.
So I think that this thing, I have a few things just to share, just to add on to a lot what I think, I don't remember who was speaking, but when she was speaking about the different learning styles about with the education system, I think, well, I dealt with that personally. And I think my question was always, who actually told me that I had to be normal or gifted? And I always got sick and tired of that thing. Like I literally got moved from a normal to a gifted class 3 times in my school year because they couldn't figure out what to do with me. Like they were just like, you're intelligent, but you won't pass the class, or you won't do this. And because you don't follow these specific rules, we're going to give you a C or D. But you know what? We can tell that you're actually intelligent and you can handle things. And I'm just like, why is there not a way to really be able to test me that would really be able to test my intelligence without it being going back to what we were speaking about earlier, these specific measures, like these specific rules that would tell me that just as long as I hit these check boxes, I'm normal. And that always frustrated me on one part. And it also hit me when I'm originally from Trinidad, and coming from Trinidad to the US, it was like a wake-up call for me, because I never really felt accepted, because I guess coming from here, it's just like I didn't sound a certain way. I didn't look a certain way. I didn't like certain music. I wasn't really considered Black, because it's just like I didn't know all the Black lingo and the Black stuff that was really going on. And I really had to reach a point of redefining what it looked like to be Black. And, that was one. And then it also allowed me to really open up and realize, like, I can have compassion for other people's cultures because of what I went through the schooling, and then also through being in a situation where I'm coming from a foreign land, coming into something where people won't accept me because I look a certain way or I sound a certain way. And I'm just like, I always got frustrated, like, why do I always have to conform to who you are? And that was always my question, like, why is it that I have to conform to you instead of you really listening harder to my, really taking the time and the energy to really listen to me, to really appreciate who I am? Why do I always have to appreciate you? And so really, that was always something that I always struggled with. So as I got older, I started, by example, really being able to be someone who accepts people's culture, regardless of who it was, where, what they were up to, anything else like that. And I even have, and I have a serious level of forgiveness because of it, because I'm just like, I don't know, from my perspective, I may look at it as wrong, but if I had that person's exact circumstances and everything that they've dealt with to do what they do, in their head, it makes sense to do what they did, and that was the exact action that they needed to do. And if I really looked at it that way, I had to realize, like, each and every person has that. Like, there's no other person that has a point of view like Corey Peters. So it's just like each and every person, how much ever billion people, has a different point of view. And instead of really looking at it and thinking like everybody's point of view is mine, if I look at it, I'm just like, let me get interested in your point of view, because everyone has a different point of view. What the world would look like and what would be different and what can I learn? that always come from a learning perspective. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you. Thank you, Corey, for sharing as well. Thank you very much for sharing it and that thought process. Antonio, I tell y'all, Antonio works with me on a daily basis, because what Corey just said, that everybody has a different perspective. And while I know this one, before I go into that, Antonio told us there's a difference between being an intellectual and being a person of awareness. While I know intellectually that everybody has different perspectives, on my awareness level, in my head, I'm like, everybody should think like me. And that's where, Corey, what you said is so important, because there's over 1 billion people on this planet. That's 1 billion different perspectives. And if you're always right, that's 1 billion people that are always wrong. But if you're looking at it from their perspective, if you move out of you and you stop trying and you stop being right, and you think about, like Corey said, okay, that person has a different perspective. Let me put myself in their shoes. And you think on a different level, you won't always be right. Like it says here, there's nothing wrong with anything. Wrong is a relative term indicating the opposite of that which you call right. The only thing that's wrong to us, the only reason we're always right and something else is always wrong, we're looking at it from our perspective. Whereas you could, another word I wanted to say there, you could very well be the person that is always wrong, and the other person is always right. But when you're always right, you're always making another person wrong, and you're never looking at it from, like Corey said, the different perspectives. So thank you.
Or you just don't, or you just don't have your own. You don't have your own truth. I call it truth system. Like,
there you go.
So what I mean by truth system, you listen to everybody else. You followed everybody else. You haven't made no way for yourself. You just went by whatever somebody else told you. You went off whatever, you saw whatever, but you never, got it on your own. That's why I appreciate my upbringing, because my upbringing allowed me to know that. What I mean by know that, I didn't have nobody in my tell me, hey man, that's, you know what, man, say it. That's a red light, that's a green light, red, you know what I'm saying? If it happened like this here, you shouldn't react. Hey man, I had to do everything on a drop of a dime. I had to learn from there, you know what I'm saying? And then the people, it wasn't it, because it was always the people that's over here always telling me that I'm wrong. And I get on them. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm a challenger. You know what I'm saying? Now today I see why I challenged them today. And I'm like, how am I wrong? For one, I've watched you for years, and you've been doing the same thing, and I'm still looking at you do the same thing. So how are you gonna tell me that what I'm doing is how are you gonna tell me what I'm doing is wrong? And I've been looking at you for 8 years now, and I'm talking about in the school system. I've been looking at you for 8 years now. You've been doing the same thing with the same results. So apparently you ain't doing. You know what I'm saying? What you saying is right. Ain't it, buddy? And I definitely, I'm not gonna follow that. That's why you mad at me. You get what I'm saying? That's why you always saying I'm always be in trouble. That's why you're always trying to label me and make me something that I'm not, because I didn't do it the way you want me to do it. And that's what it boils down to. You want me to do it the way that my ancestors brought me. I don't care about all that, man. I don't care. There's something in me that's making me who I am, and I'm sticking with that. You know what I'm saying? Corrections will come when it comes. And it comes from that genuine person. You know what I'm saying? I always had that genuine person, the person that you at least expect, not the person that you want it to be. I hope somebody caught that. It's not always the person you want it to be. It's always not the person that you want to tell you what's right and what's wrong, or because when it comes down to it, we just read it. There's no such thing as what's right and what's wrong. Is how you live. Is how you live accordingly, or how you walking. But it's the one that's the least expected that come and tell you, say, okay, I get where you're coming from. But, not all people think like you, and I appreciate that in my life, because I'm just thinking about all the people that did that in my school year. That's why I was able to move forward instead of be stagnant. I just wanted to add that in since everybody want to do the addition part.
No, thank you.
I didn't
Thank
want to
you.
be left alone.
Well, thank you very much for adding, Reverend Reginald. Thank
Made
you
me go
very
back
much.
to my high school days. I done got angry again. Don't tell me what to do, and I'm looking at you. You still got them
Joy.
same shorts on.
Joy.
Joy in the daytime. That's right.
So thank you, Reverend Reginald. Thank each and every one of you who added value. Is there anyone else that would like to add value to there's nothing wrong with anything. Oh, and what you call them, the Holy Spirit, Reginald? Is that what y'all
That's
call him?
the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit. He said
Yeah.
most people think that way. Most people think everybody else is wrong and I'm always right. Y'all, please, from personal experience, step out of you and ask yourself, am I really right? Like seriously, step out of you and look at it from another person's perspective. When I actually step out of me and I look at it from somebody else's perspective, when I get out of me, when I get out of my head, when I get out of what I think is right, and I actually look at it from another person's perspective, I'd be like, man, I was wrong.
Yeah, that's the other person's perspective, though.
I was for real wrong.
But that's what I'm talking about. That's the other person's perspective. Like, if you're in their arena, if you're in their presence, you got to go by there. Like, you got to step out of this is how you got to step out of being you to please them in their area. Like, no, I'm not doing that, man. I'm not doing that, man. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be me. Well, I mean, I'm understanding now. If I'm just absolutely being rude and disrespectful, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
That's a totally different story. I'm not talking about being rude and disrespectful. I'm talking about me bringing myself to an atmosphere or a place and being me, and people don't like being me and telling me that being me is out of line and out of the way that it should be. And I should step out of myself and be like, well, should I turn myself into a different me, a version of me, so I can fit in with them? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not.
And that aligns with what you said earlier. When you know your truth, when you know who you are and you know your purpose, you know. Antonio can walk into any room. Every last one of you on this call know. Antonio is the same person every day, all day. How many people do y'all think tell this boy excuse my verbiage, but how many people do you think tell this boy on a daily basis he wrong? I see the thumb. He gets told that on a regular basis, but because he knows his purpose and he knows who he is, just like Reginald knows his purpose and knows who he is. So when they walk into rooms and people are telling them that they're wrong, they're looking at them from their perspective because they're the ones that are always right, which also means they don't know their truths, they don't know who they are, and they don't know their purpose. When you know who you are, when you know your purpose, and when you know your truth, you have no room to tell somebody else when they're wrong. Because you also know everyone has the right to be who they are. Everyone has the free will to be who they are. So I'm going to go ahead. Ms. Shermanda, I saw you unmute your mic, and then after Ms. Shermanda, Ms. Monica.
Yes, I just wanted to add one thing. The sad reality is that there's a system set up out there. As you were speaking, I was thinking about, we oftentimes click over into the church value of things because, this country is seemingly set up in that way. So, of course, that's always going to come in on many of our conversations. But I think about the slave Bible that was created to teach the slaves how to do church and how to keep them from revolting. So there were certain truths that were taken out of the Bible or changed up so that they would not know the full truth of what the spiritual walk is, and that's why it's important. Oftentimes, it's one of those things we have to go through something and actually get in a place where we're alone, and in that place of aloneness is when we actually can hear spiritually for ourselves, and that transformation tends to take place. But we have to realize that there's a system out there that has systematically been set in place to actually keep certain ones, and I'm not just talking black and white, it's just a system out there where it's set for only a few to get to a certain place in this lifetime. And we kind of sometimes don't think on that thought process of how things are systematically set up. And even when, like I go back to the church, the slave Bible, Black slaves were taught how to do church. So we tend to have modern day slavery within our church system, but we don't see it as that. We see it as, oh, we're free and we're serving God and yada, yada, yada. But you don't understand, if you don't take the time to read that word by yourself and allow the Spirit to speak with you on a personal basis, you're still being led, you're still being, enslaved, and literally that is how our educational system is set up. And it just takes literally, it's people like us that have to teach the truth, and it's our truth, is what we know. But when you get into that place of allowing the Spirit to speak, you'll see just how systematic everything really is. And that's why you have so many different classes. Like the young man was saying, why couldn't they test me? In actuality, you probably didn't want them to test you, because they still would have been sticking you where they wanted you to be. There are tests out there now that pretty much can say, you're this, that, and the other. But again, it's placing you where they want you. And there, like I said, there's certain liberties in some arenas where they're not in others. And financially, you can actually put your kids in Montessori schools or whatever that allow a whole lot more freedoms than the regular public schools. But how many people actually know that those are major differences, where you have your children learning the different languages and everything else, and you have kindergarten through third grade in one class, so a child isn't being stuck with just first graders or kindergartners. They're able to hear a third grader responding to certain things and pulling them up to the next place. So it's a lot of reforming that needs to take place, but it's a lot of education that needs to take place as well on how, we're sitting here saying the wrong and right, and, why can't it be this, that, and the other. We got to look past who we consider leaders and see the leader within and create your leading world, bottom line. I'm finished.
Thank you, Mr.
That was a good bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much for sharing, Mr. Amanda, always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Monica, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say, but the only thing I was going to say is, because you were talking about Antonio and ATS, I think that's one of the main things that separates ATS with other companies, because everybody can be themselves. And I remember when I first came on, obviously I've known him forever, but aside from that, I think you even told me that, it's like, be yourself. Mm-hmm. And it was hard for me because I've been programmed and trained to be someone else, be professional at all times, use certain verbiage, just for my entire adult working life. So it was a hard transition for me initially, because that's not what I'm used to. When I think of a work environment, I had thought, like, you have to somewhat change who you are. That's why you see a lot of companies where people are one way at work, and then if you're friends with them on Facebook, it's like a whole different person, because they can't be themselves at work. They're programmed and trained to be a certain way. And I know I've shared this before, and I don't think it matters whether it's home, work, church. I mean, it's all similar, but I think that's probably the biggest thing that kind of separates ATS. And I think that's what will continue to separate it, because we do have such a variety of different people, different backgrounds, different religions, different everything. And I think that's one of the things that kind of makes it special, because I know for me, I like learning about other cultures and other things that are going on, because I've never really read up on it. So having people in the group that just talk about it, it's actually an exciting experience, but people are being themselves and telling their stories and doing that, where you don't get that everywhere else. So like I forgot who was saying that. I think it was Sherman, about the system that's in place. Unfortunately, that's majority of places. And I mean, it's sad, but it's one of those where you just have to figure out where you fit in, right? Where you're going to fit and what's best for you. And those places are not it. So, you know, like for you, Reggie, like you were saying earlier, like ATS is for you, because you are allowed to be yourself. So I think it's one of the things that separates it, but it is sad, because it's pretty much 90% of places out there where they do program you and train you to be a different way that's not who you truly are.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much, Monica, for sharing that. And you're right that we have so many. Let me see, is something Antonio used to tell us too, and it's actually something Tempest said as well, where we walk around with a mask on all day, to a point where we become the person behind the mask and forget who we really are, because in some cultures, what goes on in this house, stay in this house. So when you step out your house, you have to be somebody completely different. You can't walk out your house and say, man, this is an abusive household. Man, I'm confused. Man, this is happening. You can't do that. You know, the whole work husband, work wife situation, that's the same thing as being one way in the house and one way out the house. There should not be a such thing as a work husband and a work wife. That should not exist. But because we are, because of that, because we are two different people, because we're taught so many different things, there's so much. Like and this is the one place where you don't have to have that mask on. You can be you, not be judged, not have somebody later on somebody say, man, did you hear what Monica said? Man, Monica tripping. She don't know what she's talking about. You know? And I'm only saying that with Monica because Monica's family. You know, but you won't hear that here. You know, if you were on our esoteric class this morning, you would have really seen being able to just be transparent. This is a place where people it's a safe place for people to be able to come and to heal. So it's a place for people to be able to come to find their truths, to find their purposes, because they don't have the loudness of the outside world. They don't have people telling them, you know, you need to be in this class instead of that class. There's nobody here telling you, you know, you're wrong. Everyone has the right to express themselves. So thank you, Monica, for sharing what you shared with us. Thank you very much. So who else has something that they would like to say? And if no one else has anything, Reverend Reginald, I will pass it to you. And if you don't have anything, I'd like to tap into chapter 13, because that one was crucial.
Well, get the tapping.
All right. Well, let's
Tap dance right into 13.
All right. It starts on the very first page. And it reads, how can I solve some of the health problems I face? Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Miss Grace.
What page you on?
Girl, thank you. I'm on page 187. 187.
She tap danced right on to it without saying nothing.
I sure did.
She sure did.
I sure did. Because this is something when I learned this, and when I learned this from Antonio, I was like, man. And since then, I don't get as sick as I used to. Like every year I got dog sick. I had massive flu symptoms. I got so stuffy, couldn't breathe. Every time I took a breath, I coughed because I couldn't catch my breath. I lost partial hearing, lost my voice. And I see you looking at me side-eye, Grace, because you ain't never seen me like that, huh? Yeah, I learned some things. I learned some things. Now I still deal, excuse me, because of my allergies. I still deal with allergies and sinuses, but you know, Mother Nature never want to just say she just want to be sunshine and blue skies. She want to blow winds and pollen and everything. So chapter 13, page 187. That's cocaine. What's cocaine, sir? What's the smile? Look at the grin. What do you mean that's cocaine? If you can express to us.
Why is the Holy
Before I-
Spirit telling us that's cocaine? What is
Where did
Oh,
we get
the
him from?
allergies you
Where did
claiming.
we get him
Oh, the allergies. Really,
Where did we
Antonio?
get him from, man?
Really, Antonio?
Oh man.
Anyways.
Y'all talk
I'm not even
about
fooling with
me.
you.
Y'all talk about me.
Anyways, sir. Okay, chapter 13, page 187. It says, how can I solve some of my health problems I face? I have been the victim of enough chronic problems to the last 3 lifetimes. Why am I having them all now in this lifetime? That was Neil. That's God's response. Y'all ready for this? First, let's get one thing straight. You love them. Most of them anyway. You've used them admirably to feel sorry for yourself and to get attention for yourself. On the few occasions when you haven't loved them, it's only because they've gone too far, farther than you thought they ever would when you created them. Now let's understand what you probably already know. All illness is self-created. Even conventional medical doctors are now seeing how people make themselves sick. Now, I'm just going to stop right there because there's a lot more here. Like there is a lot. I'm just jump down real quick. He says, God says, people smoke and wonder why they get cancer. People ingest animals and fat and wonder why they get blocked arteries. People stay angry all their lives and wonder why they get heart attacks. People compete with other people mercilessly and under incredible stress and wonder why they have strokes. The not so obvious truth is that most people worry themselves to death. So I'm going to flip this back over. First, let's get one thing straight. You love them. My name is Deanna Mitchell, and I am a victim. Victims love having things to have problems with. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. Oh my God, I don't feel good today. Oh my God, I'm so sick. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm only telling y'all this. Miss Carol. I promise you, this was me. And I tell y'all, Antonio work on me every day. The one thing that runs me so hot is when he say, you doing that victim stuff. And I look at him and say, I'm not being a victim in my head. In my head, I'd be like, I'm not being a victim. But then when I sit back and I think, you can back up the Holy Spirit.
I'm glad you sugarcoated that. You know he don't say stuff. I'm glad you sugarcoated that because you know he don't say stuff. Okay?
I know.
Okay.
I know. But when you think about it, when you blame everything else outside of you, you are being a victim. The only reason you are sick is because of you. The only reason you are sick is because of you. Yeah, I see it. I see it, y'all. I see it. The only reason you're sick is because of you. Like God says, first, let's get one thing straight. Now, when somebody start off a sentence, and this is God talking to Neil, He basically said, look, bruh, look, let's get one thing straight. You tripping. You love being sick. And I promise, and I didn't understand that. I never understood how somebody could love being sick. And the more or how we cause our own illness, because what that did was, it made me go in my head and like, so my grandmother caused her cancer. That killed her. Like these are the thought processes. If I'm sick, it's because I wanted to be sick, because I love being sick. Like this is the stuff that went through my head. I'm sitting here, I'm like, huh. And Tony used to always say, people choose how they die. You also choose, not only do you choose how you die, you choose your illness. You choose how you want to die. You choose what that is. And you may not consciously do it, but subconsciously you do it. And now that I understand that, it's all in vibration. If you're always vibrating at stress, guess what's going to kill you? Something stressful. If you're always vibrating at wanting sympathy, guess what's going to kill you? An illness that you caused because you wanted somebody to have sympathy for you. I can tell y'all right now how my death is going to be. I'm going to be asleep. I'm going to stay asleep. Because I want to go peacefully. See, if you understand and believe that you cause your own illnesses, you also understand and believe that you cause your own deaths. And you also, I had a cousin who is like, he's like 5 years younger than me, get hit by an RV on an interstate. And that's when I really sat back, because like months prior to that, I had another cousin who had a diabetic seizure in his car with his grandchildren, hit a pole and flipped it to the point where it was on the news. And I had to sit back and I'm like, how do people desire these kind of things? And I had to sit back and think about how they lived their lives, because what you're doing is it's a vibration. In the beginning of this book, God said we are energy. We are experiences. We are pieces of him that he sent down so we can learn through experience. So if we are energy, we are a vibration. If everything that comes at us is chaos, what are we vibrating at? And what is going to be the death of us? What is going to cause our illness? If we're vibrating at peace, what is going to be the death of us? What is going to cause anything that comes to us? So I would like to open this up to everyone else on the call on this evening. Page 187. The fact that the page number is 187 is crazy. First, let's get one thing straight. You love them. Most of them, anyway. And then he says, on a few occasions when you haven't loved them, it's only because they've gone too far. And then from there, he says, farther than you thought they ever would when you created them. We created our problems. We created our illnesses. And the only time we get tired of them is when they've gone too far. The only time we get tired of being sick is when we've been sick too long. The only time we get tired of having headaches is when they have become migraines to the point where we have to get prescriptions for them. And then it says, now let's understand what you probably already know. All illness is self-created. Even conventional medical doctors are now seeing how people make themselves sick. So I would like to just open this up to everyone. The floor is whoever chooses to unmute your mic.
William Johnson put in the chat, we attract by how we live our lives. Facts. So yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. William. Ms. Shermanda, the floor is yours.
I thought I was finished. This is my first time on this call, so I'll learn the format of how this all works. But I learned, you know, after being hit by a car 5 years ago, a little over 5 years now, I got out of the wheelchair, made it to the walker, but I stayed on my walker much longer than I needed to. And not until I was talking to someone and I said out of my own mouth, I think it's more mental, that I make sure I have this, like I could walk inside. I felt comfortable walking inside, because if my sciatic nerve hit me, you know, and I was to fall, I knew I could grab hold of something, or I was inside. So though I could take, you know, steps and walk around, I refused to do it outside and used my walker as a crutch. And not until, and I, you know, I still have issues, but I made a, after hearing myself say that to that person, this just happened probably, I want to say in May, early June, I made up in my mind that I was going to just use my cane, and I was going to leave my walker home. And I did it, and I have not turned back. But I had to literally say out of my mouth that I think it's more mental, that I'm using this as a crutch because of a fear. But because of that fear, I was still drawing more sciatica activity to myself as well. You understand? So I've maybe had one episode since that time of releasing that the walker, but it literally, I held myself in that place. And there's a whole lot of other stories I can tell centering around my walk with the accident, because I was seeing that the accident brought about a lot of things medically or whatever, and taking all the medications, but there was some brokenness that had taken place long before the accident, and the accident caused me to cripple over into everything. Everything was lumped into that accident. So I can relate to what this book is saying. I don't have the book. I will be getting the book. As I stated, this is my first time with you all, so I didn't know about this book, but I will have it in the next couple of days. But I can truly testify that I stayed on a walker way longer than I needed to, and I actually got off of my medication because I landed in something that I realized that you all talked about addictions, I think, earlier today. And sometimes you can be addicted to not just a drug or a sexual thing, but you can be addicted to people bringing you pain, you know, being hit and carrying the pain of others, allowing people to hurt you because it's what you've known. So there are a lot of things that I realized in this walk and coming out of it, that I was carrying a certain vibration, but to go back to where we were, I kept myself on a walker much longer. Now I'm with my cane when I go out, and it all came from me speaking the words to say, it's a mental issue that I've created more of a mental handicap towards this thing. This has become a crutch to me. And the fear was also something that once I spoke it, I heard myself, and I'm like, did I just say that to that person? Took me about a week or so, but it kept playing over. I put it away, and I'm walking today. You know, like I said, I go out with my cane, but I haven't had any episodes but one major one in the last 2 months since I released for Walker?
All right. First of all, I would love for everyone to please unmute your mic and let's celebrate Mr. Amanda for her strength and her transparency. So thank you, Mr. Amanda. Thank you very much.
Amanda, so happy for you.
Thank you.
Amazing.
And
Wow.
I know your journey. We spend so much time talking, and I felt awareness towards it, but I didn't think you were ready, and I knew you would come to it in your time, as you have, and just be there to love you.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have to stay strong in our minds.
Well,
Yes.
you're such an amazing gift to the world that we need you. Okay?
I need you all. We need each other.
Yeah.
And one thing I would like to say about Miss Amanda, every time I've spoken to her, the light you hear coming off of her voice at this very moment is always like that. There have been moments where I have spoken to Miss Amanda and she has been in pain and still have that light coming off her voice. Antonio said her energy is incredible. And I do want to express things, because we have, just like Mr. Amanda just said, she had her car accident 5 years ago, and there's, and now, and she's made that transition, that mental, that mental decision. So I do want to let everyone know, I do understand that we do have people that are, currently on this call and in the network that are dealing with things. Things happen. And it's not that we want to be that way consciously, but deep down, our reward system is broken and we don't know that. Like I was saying earlier, every year when I was a child, I got dog sick every year. And y'all saw how Grace kind of tilted her head because it's been years since I've been that sick. Once we find the source of our pain and we release it, once we find, like Miss Amanda said, she understood that she was using what she was using as her walker as a crutch, so she started using her cane. Once we find the source of our pain and we release it, it allows us to grow. So, Miss Amanda, again, I want to applaud you and thank you so much for your strength and your transparency, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot for someone to admit, man, look, that was me.
Yeah.
So thank you so very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Oh, and I also want to say, Miss Elena put in the chat, Mr. Johnson's wife, as she put, this is William's wife, Elena. She said, just wanted to piggyback on what she is saying. I learned many, many things are mind over matter. And then Antonio just posted, the walker gave her the attention she craved, but it was not the attention she deserved. So me bringing up chapter 13 was because I understood what I was doing to myself. I was making myself sick because I wanted the attention. I was making myself sick because my reward system, which Antonio told me a long time ago, your reward system is all the way jacked up. And when he first told me, I was like, what reward system are you talking about? Like, I'm not getting any rewards. And when he broke it down to me, your reward system can be crazy. If you get the attention that you crave from the person you desire it from by doing all the wrong things, or the things that will make them flip a lid, but you still get that attention, you're getting rewarded for that. So you do the crazy things, you do the wrong things, you do the things that'll be like, hey, just like how we chastise children that are acting out, but we never stop to think that's their reward system. They're wanting attention from somebody, and that's how they're getting it. They're getting rewarded for that. Yes, ma'am, Mr. William, go ahead. Antonio said, I used to hurt myself just so people would finally speak to me. I would go weeks without someone speaking to me. So his reward system was, when he wanted attention, he caused pain to himself. So this chapter is more than just, it's deeper than just making yourself sick. It's your reward system. It's how you are rewarded for the things that you do. Go ahead, Mr. William. The floor is yours. Or Miss Elena.
Oh, no, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I just wanted to share that little tidbit that, I know many of things that we experience in life, like similar to what we were talking about earlier today, it's all in the way that we choose to handle it. Our mentality is what keeps us going. If you have the mentality that you're sick, you're going to be sick. If you have the mentality that you're a victim, you're going to be a victim. Everything, like, they say knowledge is power, but it's not just educational, it's mental power. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to use it for good? Are you going to be the victim? And you have to rise above those experiences. And I'm not even going to just say negative experiences, because with everything that you go through, there's always a lesson to learn. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what she was saying, that, like how she said that, she utilized her walker and it was a crutch for her. And that is true, because we've become accustomed to that feeling. It's like a high. It's that safety net for us. It's that, that comfort zone. We got to get out of that comfort zone and really be mentally strong. And so I really do applaud her as well for being able to notice that, because a lot of times that's the hardest thing for us. And that's just part of growing and learning in life. But being able to notice that and be able to change that, that's huge, man. That is huge. So thank you, guys. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak. And again, I applaud you for being able to stand up and be able to make that change in your life that you see that you need,
Thank you, Miss Elena. Thank you so much for adding value today and being here with us today. Go ahead, Miss Grace.
Okay, do you remember when I can't remember if my dad had knee replacement surgery or maybe something with his hip. Either way, he had to use they gave him a cane to use, until he got healed or whatever. And Deanna saw it firsthand. When he was actually supposed to be using the cane, like, how you use the cane, how you walk with the cane, it's like the cane was walking him. It's like he had the cane in his hand and walking. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? why do you have this cane in your hand and walking and not using the cane how you're supposed to? But listening to Shamanda and everyone speaking, as well as Miss Elena, yeah, he had in his head, I don't need this cane. I'm gonna just have it in my hand, because if I don't, my wife gonna say something and everybody else gonna say, so why you not using it? Well, here go the cane right here. I don't need it. But so he had in his head, hey, I'm good. I'm not using this as a crutch. So now I got it.
Grace, the same thing was like with my mom at 89 when she broke her hip, which brought us to Florida, and she went through the rehab, and she just didn't want this to be happening at all. She didn't have time for it. And she went from the walker they gave, and they gave her the cane, and she carried it around a day or two like a purse and didn't use it. And I'm trying to hold on to her, and she told him she was going to throw it in the canal. And so she really never used it. So she went right back and went right back to walking. I felt like she was going to fall all the time, and I was there to catch her, but she went right at it. And there are people that are like that, And I can relate to Shamanda. I had a serious car accident and had 2 years of recovery and brain trauma and all that. And, you know, and it just came to the point where I got tired of going to all the therapy and, you know, seeing a neurologist and all those things. And I just declared myself well. I was done. And I know Shamanda still has a ways to go, but, you know, it's a big step. It's a big step.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Miss Susan. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Miss Elena. Thank you, Miss Shamanda. Thank each and every one of you for adding value today. I actually, when Grace brought that up, I started laughing again because he was literally walking around with it, like just holding it, and I looked at him. I said, he just had surgery. He like, man, I ain't finna let this came, whatever. So. I want to thank each and every one of you who have added value this evening. But again, thank you, Ms. Sherman. I promise each and every one of you, every time I speak to her, that same energy, that same joy, that same light you heard in her voice, I don't care how she is feeling. She could be dog tired. She could be in pain. You still feel that energy and hear that joy in her voice every time she speaks. Every time. So, Reverend Reginald, is there anything that you would like to add? Reverend Reginald. Sorry. I can't, it flows.
No, ma'am.
Oh, all right. So is there anyone else who would like to add to the first part of chapter 13 this evening regarding what we have said? If not, Reverend Reginald, is there another point that you would like to stress with us this evening? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, oh, go ahead. I thought you were about to. Oh, okay.
I wasn't about to say nothing. I gotta let it flow like it's flowing, you know.
Yes, sir.
Can't interrupt the flow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to let everyone know, starting next week, we will be starting book 2 of Conversations with God. I will also be sending out the updated itinerary. I posted it earlier and I'll add it again. Yes, sir. Book 2. And I'm sending the updated itinerary again because Antonio has us doing book 2 and book 3. So next week we will be doing chapters. Conversation about book 2, chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 of book 2. Yes, sir, Mr. Phil.
I'm not sure, but I think it's book 2 that God said hemp is the best plant he put on the planet. I think it's in book 2.
Now, while some of y'all may be laughing at what Mr. Phil just said, I've actually done research on hemp. Before they were using metal for chains, they were using hemp plants for the chain links. Hemp has been used for purses. Hemp has been used for so very much. So I can understand, and I'm looking forward to reading that part because we just research it. That's all I can say because it's used for so much. Mr. William Johnson or Miss Elena said it's a great plant. It's been used in clothing. It's been used in, like I said, purses. Before they started using the metal and the steel for the chain links for anchors, they were using hemp plants. because it's so strong and so sturdy. The hammocks that some of us, the older hammocks were made from hemp plants. So it's not just what we think hemp is today. It was actually a resource, a very strong resource. Y'all see, if you subscribe to Gaia, you there is an entire series dedicated to the breakdown of that. And that's why I know Antonio introduced me to Gaia, and on Gaia, a lot of the conversations with God, a lot of the things, the esoteric things that he discusses, there are people on Gaia that will confirm everything that Antonio is saying. So when y'all think Antonio is just talking, no, he is they confirm what he teaches us. He teaches us one thing, and if the seed, he plants the seed and they water it. He plants the seed, okay, look, y'all may take this, y'all may not. And Mr. William Johnson and Miss Elena says for tea. Antonio says legal. So thank you, Mr. Phil Sorrentino. Definitely looking forward to reading book 2, because Conversations with God, book 1 has just really flipped everything around. If it hasn't flipped everything around for you, I don't think you read it. That's my personal opinion, because it has definitely flipped my brain in a few different ways. I felt like God, this book was written for me. He said, okay, you know what? You asked me too many questions. Let me just go ahead and tell Antonio to make this a mandatory meeting and have you teach it so you can read it finally and get all your questions answered. Because my conversations with God is, God, you know this child. You know, you got to come down and tell me directly. So this was him. This book was him telling me directly. You tripping. You forgot who you were. You forgot why you came here. You forgot I had a purpose for you. So quit tripping. Here go the answers to your questions. And come on, go help other people like you're supposed to be doing. So, so ladies and gentlemen, starting next week, book 2, chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. If there isn't anything else this evening, Reverend Reginald, do you have any final words for us?
Just know who you are. Know who you are, and speak it into existence like it's already there. Because it is. It's just on the other side. You just got to go get it. That's all I've been hearing today anyway. Is when you know it's over there, you can go get it. There's no go getting it because you know it's over there already. It's over there. That's why I said it, especially right after the point where you was talking about, right at the bottom. At the bottom, it just said it's your thoughts. All it is your thoughts. That's all it is. It's your thoughts. Stop letting people pour into your own thoughts, man. Stop letting people pour into the way you think, man. Just you put yourself where you want to be. Whatever you got to do, however you do it, I don't know. Everybody's different, but if you want it, just say you got it and you'll have it. That's it. That's all I got to say. I'm done. It's a wrap.
All right, all right. Mr. Phil, do you have any final words for us this evening? Uh-oh.
All right. I have something I want us to think about before our next class next Thursday.
All right.
If you are the person that attracted the situation to you that you're dealing with, and that's what this was all about, why has 6,148,875 people in the United States decided to have COVID-19? Why did globally 28,201,282 decided to have COVID-19?
A lot of numbers. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Phil. So everyone think about that one. All right. So if there is not, thank you so much, Mr. Phil. Thank you, Reverend Reginald. We will see everyone this week. And again, think about what Mr. Phil just said. Yeah. All right. And I do want to also let everyone know, starting October 1st, it will be mandatory for all cameras to be on starting October 1st. I said September last time. Starting October 1st, it will be mandatory. Yes, sir, Mr. Phil. Go ahead.
Are we allowed to turn the cameras off if we're eating? Because I don't like to watch myself eat, much less more to watch other people eat. So
Yes,
if we're
sir.
eating, are we given permission to turn our cameras off then and then turn them back on when we're done eating? We are. Oh, good. I just wanted to check on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Bill. Wait, say it again.
And using the restroom too, and all sorts of stuff like that.
Please turn off your cameras if you go to the restroom. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can plan better. You can dominate. Thank you so much for joining us. Love you more, Mr. Phil. Everyone have an amazing evening. Thank you so much for joining us.